Hey, everybody. Ooh, I don't usually do that. Okay. I'm LaTroya. I'm going to be your panel moderator for today. Welcome. Before we get started, we're going to have Kevin here lead us through a little access activity.
Hey, y'all. How's it going? Okay, we're after lunch. I guess we're kind of the last session before we start to wrap up for the day. So a good time, as always, to check in on access. And this is a whole panel about strategies for the next generation of guaranteed income programs. So maybe this is a strategy, is just using access as a methodology. So you could just take a second. What comes up for you if I ask, are your access needs being met right now? If nothing is coming up, that is usually an indication that your access needs are so routinely met that you maybe don't think that you have any, but we all have access needs. These automated captions are doing good work. I don't usually say that about automated captions. Usually I have a lot of shade to offer to automated captions. I'm very impressed with that one. That's working. We could do visual description if it would be helpful for any blind or low vision folks. What else? There's a really comfy chair that's available on the floor next to the stage that's not being used. I feel like someone should use that. It's comfy. It's right there. How do we feel? Are access needs being met? Yeah. That's a great question. There's really not so much a difference between like needs and access needs, except that access needs help focus on various kind of perception and sensory things. So making sure that we can hear if we need that, or we can see if we need that, get access to like what we are gonna do. I guess we're kind of testing that with the sound system. And I feel like, especially when we're on the stage, the only way we really know is if y'all let us know. So interrupting to make sure that your access needs are being met is very, very important. I often invite people to disrespect etiquette in the name of your access needs. So if you need to like get up, stim, move around, lie down, use this comfy chair that is empty. My access heart is breaking that nobody is taking the empty, comfy chair. All right, I'm gonna put my mask back on and move that closer to the audience so that someone can take the comfy chair. And if not, Maddox, can you take it? If how do you know I was thinking about it? Okay, well, I just you know.
Hey, y'all. I'm back. So as we wrap up, I just want to start by saying I love today. It's so good having all of you here and everyone here to kind of help us re-envision and reimagine what some of this work could look like. I'm LaTroya. I don't like introducing myself. I never know what to say. I'm a researcher, writer, educator. Sometimes I'm a yogi. All over the place, but today I'm here as a researcher on the Youth Empower team, who we're gonna hear a little bit more about from later. But before we get started, I'll just intro a little bit what we're gonna be doing today. So this panel today, is going to bring together some great programs and different perspectives about how we can discuss strategy and goals to kind of re-envision what this work looks like. Specifically, we're gonna kind of like hone in on research. I know that's something that we touched a little bit today, but just to go a little bit deeper, I feel we need to re-envision elitist research models that they don't really match the creative, innovative work that we're all doing in these spaces. And I just wanna say that there is space to kind of restructure research and what research could look like in the work that we're doing. So we're gonna produce, if we're producing more research, there needs to be more dialogue about the why and the how. I really am always saying this, but there is a lot of research already out there. So all of the research that we're gathering that is new, we have to make sure that it's not replicating what's already out there. We already have those answers. And really thinking about and asking ourselves, like, why are we doing this? And why are we asking what we're asking? Like, what is the action that the research is gonna propel? So some of the things and questions I want you all to think about as you hear our projects on the panel talk today is really, what are your goals? What are our goals moving forward as we do this work? What are we trying to gain through more research? How can we strategically build pilots that accomplish our shifting goals? And then what have we learned along the way that can inform future pilot designs? So we're gonna be hearing from some of our projects today and really thinking about what new strategies or what strategies they have to offer you all as suggestions for us doing this work. So just forecasting the session, we have 4 different perspectives up here today. We have Kevin Gotkin, representing Creative Rebuild from New York. We have Gwen Batiste and Maria Sierra from the Denver Basic Income Project. We have Allison Friedman Phillips from the Women's Foundation of Colorado. And then we have Takoy Adams, Denise O'Connor, Eleni Liang, Maya Tellman, all from the Youth Empower Project with me, and we have some other folks in the audience. And each group is gonna introduce themselves a little bit, but also share a little bit about their projects and their relationship to basic income work, and kind of like lay out some strategies to get us really thinking as we like leave out today. So first, I'm gonna invite Gwen Batiste and Maria Sierra from the Denver Basic, hold up. You're gonna get note cards. Hold all questions to the end, please. We have limited amount of time. I'm gonna walk around and collect note cards. So as questions come up, I'll be walking around to get that, and we'll come back to that in the last 15 minutes. Circling back. First, I'm gonna have Gwen Batiste, Maria Sierra from the Denver Basic Income Project come up to take the mic, or sit there because they already have mics.
Hi, everyone. My name's Gwen from the Denver Basic Income Project.
And I'm Maria. I'm the Community Engagement Manager with the Denver Basic Income Project.
The Denver Basic Income Project is a pilot project delivering guaranteed income to people experiencing homelessness in Denver. We've so far deployed over $9.8 million to over 800 of our unhoused neighbors in Denver. And the aims of, we have a randomized control trial being run by the University of Denver's Center for Housing and Homelessness Research, essentially studying how receiving an intervention of guaranteed income relates to various outcomes for people experiencing homelessness.
I'll just share, we are in our second year. We decided, let me back up a little bit. When we were building out this project, we were so ambitious about getting this cash into the hands of our unhoused community because, as you all know, people experiencing homelessness, our homeless crisis just continues to grow. And so we were just so anxious to get cash in the hands of our community that we initially didn't plan to go past 1 year. But once we were in it, we realized we really need to go beyond the 1 year. And so we are currently in our second year, but we're not funded for our full second year. And so our participants, I lose track of months, y'all, because the work is so busy. I just have to say, you all know that. So our participants, our second year started in February, and they are going to get payments through September. We did have a gap in that from that first year to second year, and I'm just sharing that because that's what's crucial about funding and the continuity of that, because we lost some of our participants. So as Gwen stated, We had 807 enroll into our first year, but we lost some of them, and in our extension, we have about 675 participants. So we lost a few with that gap. And in our in-house community, as you know, they don't stay in one place. And again, we weren't planning beyond the first year. So, but we have connected and stay connected to over close to 700 of those participants in numerous ways. So I'm not sure how much more I want to share about that. I don't want to take up all the time because I could talk and talk and talk.
I'll just add, kind of to supplement that, aspects of the research. So our participants, to be eligible for the project, obviously had to be experiencing homelessness in some way. They had to be connected to a service provider. So we partnered with 19 different community-based organizations who are providing services in some shape or form to this community. And beyond that, folks needed to have a smartphone. If they did not have one, we gave them one with a year's worth of talk, text, and data. That being a really specific, crucial, and important intervention we saw even in our control group. The fact that you're connected with a service provider, and especially for people experiencing homelessness, when you're given a phone to stay connected to potential employers, friends, and family, that was incredibly important. So from the research element as well, we just released our one-year report last month, quantitative and qualitative. So there's a ton of results to get into there. But yeah, I don't want to dive too deeply into our project when there's others to hear from too. So we can wrap it there unless you have anything else.
I think I go next, right? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Allison Friedman Phillips. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Programs, Policy, and Advocacy at the Women's Foundation of Colorado. So we're a statewide community foundation that focuses on advancing gender, racial, and economic equity. So we're based in Denver, but we serve the whole state of Colorado. And the reason I'm here today, I think we've heard a lot about how much cash assistance and guaranteed income, basic income can really help women, especially when you're using an intersectional lens and looking at their many different identities. And that is one of our main focuses at the Women's Foundation in our programmatic work that we do. We have a grant-making strategy called WINCOME. We provide grants to direct service organizations that can use those grants for cash assistance or guaranteed income or basic income for their participants. And then the remainder of those grants can be used for general operating. And then we also make grants to policy and advocacy organizations that are doing systems change work in Colorado, like the Colorado Fiscal Institute that's here today, to change systems in our state to get more resources to women and their families. And that work we've been doing now for almost 5 years, that grant-making strategy. In the last 2 years, or 2 or 3 years, we have been working with other organizations in Colorado to first sort of replicate the guaranteed income community of practice that I'm sure many, if not all of you, are aware of, the amazing Economic Security Project organizes. We've been trying to replicate that in Colorado by bringing people together around the state who are working in this space. And then that work has sort of evolved into a coalition that we call the Cash for Coloradans Coalition. And we are just starting up that work. We're co-leading it with organizations like the Denver Basic Income Projects, the Colorado Fiscal Institute, and other direct service and advocacy organizations in our state. We also have participants and individuals who have received cash assistance or guaranteed income as a part of our coalition. And we are really trying to, with that work, bring together the work that's happening in Colorado, whether it's like tax credit work, the pilots that exist, the different organizations that are providing cash assistance. There's different policy and advocacy work that we're doing to really try to change systems in Colorado to get more cash assistance, more guaranteed income and basic income through policy in the state. So I'll stop there. It's really a privilege to be here with you all. I've been learning so much, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the other folks on the panel.
Hi, y'all. I'm Kevin Gotkin. I am an artist organizer with Creatives Rebuild New York. How many people have heard of Creatives Rebuild New York? Oh, it's so many hands. That is entirely because of my colleagues who are here, the folks we refer to as the Creatives Rebuild New York GI Squad. Mara Cuffey-Peterson, Naja Gordon, Isaiah Madison. And I think we also have some program participants in the room too. We have some artists, yeah. So I'm honored to be, talking a little bit about the work that my colleagues and teachers have engaged me in. Are we just doing a quick intro of the programs, or are we going into our strategies moment?
I think you can dive in.
Okay. So Creatives Rebuild New York, just for folks who haven't heard of this organization, it's a sunset organization. So this organization will go away at the end of this year. It was established just to give away jobs and cash to artists in so-called New York State. So one of those programs is a guaranteed income program for artists. So 2,400 artists across the state received $1,000 a month for 18 months. And so many other things. If you caught one of the last breakouts, my colleague Mara was talking about some of the sunset strategies, a lot of things organized for the artists that were supported by that program. And so on this panel, we're talking about next generation strategies, right? Like if we could dream very long term. Strategy number 1, access as a method. How are we doing on that? We're okay? Yeah? I'm realizing this mic is really sensitive. It's great. But I'm one of those people that's a little jumpy, so every time I aspirate into it, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't. Okay. I'm going to hold it like this. So strategy number 1, access. It's a set of political principles and actions that we can do. The second strategy that I was going to offer has been so incredibly on display already, which is thinking about artistry as a set of tools in all ways, implementation, design, implementation, and especially in evaluation. We had the Kevin Dublin brilliant moment earlier today, whoa. If y'all haven't caught the exhibition that is in the storehouse, it's kind of in the corner of that space. There's a beautifully curated exhibition that shows you what artists do with guaranteed income. And also, thinking about artistry as its own form of engagement, of research. So I imagine next generation of pilots where artistry is just a set of tools that are being used in every way all the time. The other strategy I was going to offer is thinking about protecting access to public benefit programs. So this is a thing that I am really interested in. In fact, on Wednesday, I'm convening a bunch of folks for a post-conference moment called Crip Coin, where we're thinking about disability power and protecting access to public assistance in the cash movement. So this year is the 50th anniversary of supplemental security income, a federal cash program for disabled folks. Began distributing cash in 1974. We often, in this cash movement space, don't think of that as a cash program, even though it is one of the best demonstrations of the way that ableism and conditions on cash trap people in poverty. So when we design programs, very often people who use public benefit programs don't really have many tools or even sets of information about how to make sure that they can use public benefit programs while still receiving new kinds of cash. And that's a huge problem. That's a major failure of our own political education and political framework. Just last week, some reporting that shows that Deloitte, the global consulting firm, receives either 5.6 or 6.5. I should have mentioned, but it's billions of dollars every year from the Social Security Administration to run the disability determination process, ways of discerning who should be deserving of programs like supplemental security income. And they receive billions of dollars every year. Isn't that an interesting guaranteed income for a global consulting firm that denies guaranteed income to disabled people who need it desperately? So get in touch if you want to talk about public benefits, or if you want to join us on Wednesday. That'll be a disability-centric conversation. And a strategy for the next generation of pilots is to have a whole set of very powerful tools that allow people to keep access to all of the resources they need when they're selected for a guaranteed income program. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sequoia Adams. I'm a youth action researcher with Youth in Power. I'm also a writer, a poet, and a novice photographer, amongst other things, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eleni Liang. I'm a researcher at Youth in Power, and yeah.
All right. Hello. My name is Denise Okana. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a youth action organizer and researcher here with Youth in Power. Besides that, I'm also the program coordinator at Youth Advocacy Corps. So just all around a lot of advocacy and social justice work in my 24/7 life. But yeah, I'll pass it to Maya.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maya Tellman. I am a researcher, a student, a teacher at the City University of New York, and a member of the Public Science Project there. And I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to pass it to Denise, who's going to tell you all a little bit about Youth in Power, where we come from, what we've been up to.
All right. Okay. Hi again. So I'll sort of be answering the questions, who we are, what we do. So as we said, the name of our project, the name of our project is Youth in Power, Transforming Care. So that is what we do. But we here are representing a larger intergenerational collective. So it's us here, it's people back in New York, it's also our team in the seats who we are representing. And what we do is that we bring together people with lived experience in the foster care system, but also specifically in New York. But we also bring together people who have experience in policy work, advocacy work, organizing, and research within the child welfare systems all around the US. I really want to emphasize that we are intergenerational, so it's people who have careers in this stuff and have been doing this for years, but it's also people kind of like me and Eleni who are recent college grads and sort of are learning as we go, as well as like Takoi and other folks on the team. But yeah, we get a lot of questions about that, and we're always happy to answer it, but I swear to you, it's definitely possible, and it's definitely something cool that we have been able to do over the past 2 years. But yeah, over the past 2 years, we've been creating this research project together, bringing in our experience. And what we were able to do is, over the course of a year, we provided 100 young people who were transitioning or have transitioned out of the foster care system in New York. We provided them with $1,000 for a year, and we recently wrapped that up last month in June, which was really cool. The folks that received this money were within the ages of 18 to 22, and they had to be out of the foster care system for 6 months. I really want to say that this was able to be done with the help and the partnership of Children's Defense Fund and CUNY, the CUNY Public Science Project that Maya is a part of, as well as some of the other folks on our team. And yeah, our project is about like what cash can do and what cash can provide in that transitional period, but also like what else helps, what else is needed in communities, and what else is needed from these systems that have like affected lives for years and years and years and generations. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it to Eleni now.
That was a beautiful explanation. We're going to shift over and talk about some strategies that we've utilized in this work. The first strategy I'm going to talk about is PAR, which is also known as Participatory Action Research. A little bit about it is that it's a research approach that emphasizes on direct engagement with the community, with the members of communities. So that way it just allows for collaboration between us, the researchers, organizers, and with participants to understand their priorities and perspectives in the communities. I also want to mention that majority of our collective, the researchers and the organizers, are also involved with the foster care system in one way or another. And it has created spaces and openings for the pilot participants to join us, as well as speaking here and hearing them out. And having that dynamic helps us foster relationships and develop that sense of trust. And throughout this program, our participants have shown consistent involvement with our surveys, interviews, get-togethers, and even phone calls with us. And that was really impressive. And in fact, after their 12 months with us, many of them have reached out to us to like be more involved, how they can help out even after their 12 months was over. And another aspect to our PAR design is this particular quote that I believe our panels know what I'm talking about. It's even on the back of our t-shirts. There's nothing about us without us. But on our t-shirt, yeah. It essentially speaks out the fact that policy should be made with the full and direct participation of the members affected by that said policy. And in this makings of this project, this quote was used to ground us and remind us of who and what our work is for. And our team strongly stands by that. And I'm gonna pass over the mic to Maya to explain the second strategy of our project.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eleni and Denise. What I want to share really builds off of what Eleni shared, just about the fact that we really have utilized this participatory action research framework in our project. And uniquely, that's been a youth-led approach. And the second strategy, I guess, could be framed as a call to really think creatively about the way that we're constructing our research designs. As we move into this next generation of pilots, really thinking critically about what questions we've answered, what our evidence base looks like, and how we can think creatively in our designs to really answer this next generation of questions about the impact of cash, but also really the deep nuance of what cash means in the lives of our participants. And I know that for us, part of that creative research design has really been the fact that it's been a youth-led project, something that you don't see that often. Maybe you've seen a youth advisory board or a meeting that brings impacted youth in a community into a conversation, but really what our project has been is deep youth involvement as the architects of our research process, from its initial design many, many years ago to its implementation, to bringing our actual pilot participants into our work with us, which really was facilitated by the fact that we are this diverse intergenerational collective, and all the way to our evaluation, our analysis, and now our movement building, now that our pilot has sunsetted. And I think another creative part of our research design that I think really attends to the ethics that we want and desire in the world that we're trying to create together is the fact that we decided not to implement a randomized control trial in our project. We do not have a control group that emerged from the desires of those in our collective, as well as the fact that we've really seen the ways that that approach has benefited our work. It has not been a limitation. It has opened up pathways for trust. It has invited our participants into our project with us. And it really has opened up this whole other world where we can build and understand qualitative nuance, the how of how cash impacts the different corners of a young person's life. And We urge those in the room with us who are either part of pilots or are part of this work to really think creatively with us as we move into this next generation of pilots of what are the traditional forms of evaluation research and how can we try to subvert them or challenge them or even just work creatively within them in order to answer this next wave of questions that we're trying to attend to. So thank you.
Thank y'all. So I walked around and I saw a lot of blank cards, but I saw people like write in their other books, their tablets and stuff. That's an access need. Like, screw that postcard. I'm gonna continue my notes where they are. I would have did the same thing. We have like 15-ish minutes for some questions. So I invite y'all to just raise y'all hand, old school, and we'll call out. And people on the panel, I guess it's up to y'all to like listen and think about like who's the best to answer the question. Cool. Any questions? Thoughts? Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of discussion. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
About balancing empowering people, especially marginalized folks like youth or unhoused people, or formerly incarcerated people, the balance between empowering people through GI versus making decisions about GI implementation that feels controlling or paternalistic and sort of mimicking a lot of the way government benefit programs work, for example. So you mentioned some things about, getting input on design from youth, or hearing feedback from participants and using that to iteratively improve how the project is going. Do you have other sort of strategies that have been successful, anybody on the panel, in terms of empowering and kind of disrupting the paternalism that can come as part of GI administration?
Should we revoice the question? Would that be helpful? Okay. So the question was about a balance between using GI to empower folks, but also often making decisions about the GI program that are often paternalistic and controlling and replicate the shitty parts of existing social safety net programs. So the question was, are there any strategies for not replicating the paternalistic aspects and not making decisions for people?
I'll speak to, I don't know if it's a strategy, but I'll speak to a challenge and a commitment. So I guess that's the strategy. When we started to put together the Denver Basic Income Project, we all began to connect in early 2021. And our founder and executive director started to connect with agencies that were serving the unhoused community, right? Go to the people that are providing the services. And that's how I met him. And in that process, we had people who were experiencing homelessness a part of that. And in early 2021, like most of us, working remotely, right? We weren't quite back in offices or anything like that, and we're still Denver Basic Income Project. We don't work out of an office. One challenge that we had was because we were working with community-based organizations who are used to doing work and reporting to grants, right, in a certain way for decades and decades and decades, right? Sometimes without paying attention, by default, you were providing services to fit the numbers, and you're not really providing services. So I say all that to say it was a challenge. We were constantly in Zoom rooms, conversations about, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that, because we were also defaulted in the way of engaging this community that we were serving. And so as a service provider, I had to kind of wire my brain in thinking about how I was going to serve this community differently than I had from the 2.5 decades I had done before. And I had to then help foster that and coach that to the community-based organizations that we were partnering with. So that was a huge challenge, but it was something that we held really high in our values, that if something felt really hard, why we were doing this, and we had to just kind of explain, this is why we're doing this. We're not doing that, right? We're doing this, and this looks different, and this is going to have a greater impact. And here we are with our first one-year report, and it has had that greater impact. So hopefully that was helpful to that question, but it really was us keeping committed and having our North Star. We were serving hundreds of our unhoused community. And so I'll even share that when we were asking our participants at certain points, what is it that you need? Well, as a service provider, when you're asking people that you serve, what do you need? They're going to tell you what you need, right? Somebody asks me what I need, I'm going to tell you what I need. And it's always something to fill the gaps that they have. And what we were really wanting is, how are ways that we can engage, right? What's important that you have to speak to this project, and what we can build. And so we had to kind of restructure those kinds of conversations, and there were lots of blood, sweat, and tears, let me tell you, in those conversations. But the commitment to not take things personal, the commitment to know that we're kind of going against the grain in the way that service providing has been done, even though our project wasn't providing services. But in this realm of working with the unhoused, it kind of felt like you could default to that. So we had to be really careful not to do that. And as a service provider, many times in those first couple of years, I was the only service provider at the table. So I had to really be like, this is not that. And so we still keep that North Star.
I really hope this answered your question, but I think a strategy that we've used is that before this project has taken flight, this project brought together researchers and organizers who had experience in the foster care system. And having that, we've had a lot of discussions that are very heated, emotional at times, but it was those discussions that really helped us cement and implement the values that we want to carry throughout this project. And I think that really shows throughout our whole program. Yeah, I hope it helps.
We have 2 hands up. I will come back to y'all. I just want to add, so doing this work, especially with young people, I think one of the challenges that comes up is we don't want to tokenize the communities that we're working for or around. So a lot of us are working in spaces where we have marginalized youth or women, children, etc. I think in order to do this work, when we're saying like let's center the lived experience, we really need to make sure that we're making space for the experiences that we're doing within our work to not feel token. So not just having young people come speak to an issue, but thinking about how can you sit around at the table with these young people to take a pause and reflect on just making space with them. And I think that's the real true value of doing intergenerational work. We're all like learning and unlearning things, and I think in these spaces you really have to be open to unlearn. And we have 2 questions, so brown shirt, blue flowers, and then extra over here, I'm sorry.
Was there a chance that Mara wanted to add to the answer to that question? Oh, okay.
My question's about working with young people. You mentioned PAR, Participatory Action Research, and I was just wondering if you could share more, like what does that look like? What do you do, focus groups? Are people on staff? Like, how do you do it? And like, are they designing the surveys? Are they defining the outcomes, the analysis? Just want to hear more about that, and specifically with young people.
Yeah, so PAR definitely involves a lot of work with the youth. In our experience, we've done surveys, interviews, phone calls, a lot of that. And I think what was an added plus is that we had an incentive so that they could come and volunteer their time for us. And in those spaces, we've allowed, like how this conference is held, like spaces where they could breathe, take time back, and such. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add to what Eleni brought up. The beauty of PAR, but I think the mystery about it to some people is we're all always looking for like a toolkit or a how-to manual. And the beauty of it is that it looks different in every project. One of the core pieces of PAR is that you take on an emergent approach. So, you start off with your questions, but you feel comfort within the fact that your questions will change over time, your methodology may shift, and you're always going to be revisiting those kind of core questions and motivations of your project. For us, the way that things played out was we all came together over 2 years ago, a cohort of over 12 young people, I got a thumbs up in the audience, who represented a range of different contact and experience with either the child welfare system in New York City or living within communities that were over-surveilled by the child welfare system, researchers like myself, advocates with deep knowledge, having worked in this space, artists, organizers, etc. And we built this project from the ground up. And a lot of that was really intentional work within our collective, getting to know each other, trying to understand each other's lives and histories, the gifts that we bring to the work, and building our project from there. And part of that is just research skill building, becoming confident researchers together, but also a lot of that was deconstructing things that we were coming to this project with, whether that's ideas about who holds the knowledge in the project, who's feeling less like they can speak and take up space, who's taking up too much space maybe, and really trying to create what this project looks like in a truly collaborative way. And that doesn't just start and end with the people in our collective, but also once our 100 participants entered the work through our DCT pilot, also inviting them into the work to help shape it with us, shape our analysis, and also shape the movement building work that comes from it. So not a super satisfying answer to your question, because PAR, if people are interested in trying to infuse more participatory methodologies into their work, it's always going to look different, but it really does emanate from a shared ethic.
Yeah. And let's chat, because I'm part of like 7 PAR projects. They all look different, very different. Question.
Well, 7 projects, just kudos to you. That's thank you, panelists. I'm so inspired by what the next generation, the next wave, right, of this work might be if we're all inspired, so inspired by y'all's work. I'm thinking about the intersection of benefits protections and research. Every state is different, but I know that many states, the benefits protection waiver process hinges on a specific kind of research project, typically an RCT. So I'm just wondering if y'all were imagining the future of how a holistic, right, benefits protection approach, how would these sort of things interact? What are some new things we could imagine?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So yes, there is absolutely a limitation that many of us will face if we are trying to think creatively and outside of the box, specifically not employing an RCT model in our projects, not having a control group. We are a privately funded project, so in some ways we were more flexible in our approach, but we definitely did face some roadblocks along the way in terms of trying to secure benefit waivers for our participants. A lot of, in order to secure benefit waivers, it needs to be a research project with rigorous comparison, and usually that is equated with an RCT model. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it with our project. We were able to, think creatively, partner with another organization who's doing their own evaluation of our project, which is a rigorous comparison that's not employing a control group, it's using administrative data, but that's just one pathway. But definitely there are roadblocks along the way in terms of not pursuing an RCT and wanting to protect benefits waivers for participants. But I will say that I think, the more projects that try and subvert that, that's how we shift the tide in terms of thinking about what rigorous research is, and how that's imagined not only in our projects, not only in academia, but also at the state level where they're deciding what research is and what research isn't.
We have one last hand because we are like this back there. I'm sorry. I see folks trickling back in from the other breakouts. So I know we're like ending. So let's take one final question.
Thank you, panelists. I've been doing community-based participatory research in public health for about 25 years, and I've noticed that it's very difficult for agencies, foundations, funders to give up power. And my definition of community-based participatory research is one where the community, that the funder is the guide on the side, and there is a shelf life to the involvement of the funder, agency, et cetera. And their goal is to give the community the wings to fly so that they are self-empowered, they are empowered to do what they want to do. And so I'm wondering how each of you are doing that.
Can you repeat the last part of the question, please? How each of us are
moving in that direction. Okay. I meant realizing that it isn't about you, the agency, funder, foundation, et cetera, and that you're the guide on the side, and eventually you're going to fall away because the community will have the power to do what it, will realize the power they always had.
So, like, how are we moving in the direction of shifting power?
Yes, that's the question.
Woo! Yeah. Can you imagine accumulating so much wealth that you can avoid taxation by forming a foundation, and then just making sure that your name is all over every single thing that you do, right? Like these are the funder dynamics that you're talking about, right? I have no idea what that's like. I mean, I really don't have an answer to this question, except just to say that I'm really interested, I think, in another panel that's happening maybe tomorrow about totally alternative forms of funding GI programs. I think there was an event last week about solar dividends, like literally using solar power to fund GI, and then cannabis taxation. Like, there may be a totally different way to like literally put the funders on the sidelines, because they're actually maybe in the future next generation, not actually the ones whose names need to be on it. But I don't have a good way except to say that my colleagues at CRNY are doing incredible work, a power building school that involves the participants in the program, that is part of the sunset design of my rad colleagues' idea for how to sunset not just this pilot, but also our whole organization. So that's my long-winded way of saying, like, I have no idea, but I hear there's really cool stuff at this conference about that.
I can speak from, since we are a community foundation and we do fund this work, I think that, yeah, your point is a really, really good one. And, we're certainly not perfect. We're on a learning journey to try to figure out how we can hopefully be that funder in the future. And also really trying with our colleagues in philanthropy to address, I think, exactly what you're talking about, whether it's figuring out how to fund this sort of work, figuring out how to do more funding that isn't as restricted or general operating. I mean, I think, we've experienced it internally at the Women's Foundation with some of the folks who help us make decisions about our grants, of trying to educate them around a lot of the things, that you all already know. Like, we can trust people with money. We don't have to tell them what they can and can't spend the money on. And similarly with the grants that we make, like I was saying, our policy and advocacy grants are general operating, so the organizations can use it however they want, including we encourage lobbying. All the ways that we can use our 501c3 statuses to impact systems change. And then also with our direct service grants too, or the same, the grants can be used for cash assistance and general operating however the organizations see fit, however they serve their communities. So, we're a small foundation in the world of foundations, but we are really, really trying to follow the things that you were talking about. And then just going back to one of the other questions too, around like waivers and ways to not create benefits cliff for participants, we're also trying to do that through policy change. So this last legislative session, we were able to add some changes to our child care assistance program in the state that are exempting cash from determinations for eligibility. So there are bigger systems change things that can be done in states too, or at the local level, and I'm happy to talk more about some of the work that we did there as well.
Thank you all. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the people in the room. You all are asking the questions that need to be asked, and let's continue these conversations. Yeah?
Wait, hold on. Let's give it up for LaTroya. Yeah.